session for March 1st, 2020.
So
I should have known John and AP back there. I'm not getting really official here.
Spring, you know.
Okay. Welcome to the May 1st, 2023 in City of Indianola study session. We will begin this evening with some interviews, with very great candidates. We will let City Manager Ben Reeves go over the process and then we will take off from there.
Excellent. So I'd like to welcome our 4 candidates that are here tonight to be interviewed. We wanted to make sure this was equal and fair to all involved. And so I'll review the process that we're planning to go forward with. So the interviews will be conducted here in the study session. This is anticipated to take about an hour, but if we need to go over because we want to ask, more in-depth questions and that type of thing, we can certainly go past the 7 o'clock hour, and that's posted so that we can do it just that way. Each elected official is going to ask one question. We're going to be consistent about the same question being asked of every candidate. And none of the council members know what another council member is going to be asking. So they have a backup question. Interview order will be by random drawing. And so we're going to draw them out. And what we're going to do is we want to ask each of the candidates, except for the first person, follow our assistant or follow our finance director.
Not that way. I think open the door.
Okay. It's down to our public safety training room. And that is out of mutual respect for each other as you're being interviewed. We don't want to give anyone advantage over anyone else by hearing the questions first. And so we're going to ask you to be respectful of your candidates by following our Andy down to our public safety training room. And we're also asking that you don't watch it on YouTube or through Zoom or anything like that. So you can spend your time down there. The first person will be in the room and the questions will be asked by our elected leaders. As soon as the questions are asked or any follow-up questions that the council wants to ask based on the unique characteristics of the questions that you answered, follow-up questions are allowed by our elected leaders. We will then escort back and forth until all 4 candidates have had the opportunity to present before the council. It's anticipated that you would begin. We did talk about having a presentation, so having you each have 5 minutes to present whatever you'd like to present about yourself and your reasons for wanting to serve during that first 5 minutes. Each question, we're anticipating that once the question is asked, that you try to keep your answers to about 2 minutes each so that we can keep the process moving forward. As far as voting is concerned, once all the questions have been asked, you're going to invite all 4 candidates back to the room. And our elected leaders will then take the papers that have been provided in front of them. They're going to write down the names of their top 2 candidates. From that list, we're going to bring that together, and those who have risen to the top as being the top 2 finalists will be announced, and the council will then have a second round of interviewing where they will select their top choice out of the 2 candidates remaining. And from that, the council's selection will be final. And the only thing that we wanted to maybe put as a change to this process is that we were anticipating that we would swear in our elected leader as the last agenda item on this council meeting. However, we do want to be respectful of the fact that none of you really know if you're going to be the finalist at this point, and you may want to have your families here available here when you're sworn in. And so if you prefer not to be sworn in tonight, we would be happy to make you the first agenda item. Oh, has to be within 10 days of the selection. Okay, so
We should have checked with Jackie
we
first.
should have checked with
We
you.
should have known you would know.
You're hoping to make this
Recommend tonight.
If there is time, it is going to be a short meeting this evening. If there is time and you want to invite your family, we will certainly take care of that for you. Otherwise, we can always do a photo op at the next one too. With your
Okay.
family.
And that would be appropriate as well. So to keep this in, I'm gonna actually turn to Amy over there. See if she would pick out our first
Well, Andrew, we'll let you pick the first council person then, 'cause we gotta be fair to all our media, right?
Okay, Brad Green will go first. I'll go back again. Brian Andrews, will go second. Randy Bickham will go third. And that leaves Bob Raven.
Before they run out of the room here, and I would just like to say, been impressed with all four candidates. I know all the other council members have. Thank you very much for applying and good luck, and you're all excellent candidates.
Okay, with that, if we could have Brian, Randy, and Josh follow Andy. Bring that one at a time.
Yeah.
All right, Andrew, who's it gonna be? We're gonna let you pick you can pick the first person up on this table. Who gets to ask the first question?
Who wants to go? You get to give a little bit of a speech.
Yeah.
All right, Brad, if you want to come to the podium.
Thank you for having me. When I started this whole process, wanting to be a part of this community, we moved here. I wasn't a person who came from background and that kind of thing. So it was kind of how do I get myself involved? I started getting involved activities around Simpson and community and started to get to know people. My goal with that was I wanted to build the city to the next generations, not just my generation, but the next generation. I want my kids and my grandchildren to love this town just as much as we do. This is the longest I've ever lived in one city of 16 years. We moved around a lot when I was a kid. And when this came about a year ago, 2 years ago, I came on to the veteran because I wanted to get insight into that pool and what we're going to be doing because we knew it was going to happen. And so I've been part of that. When I got part of that, I came in here at the time we had the guy that came in and talked to us about parliamentary procedure and how you had forums and all that kind of stuff. And I thought that was, I kind of just got the juices rolling with me. And so it's something I wanted to be more than just what I was doing. Not that it was an important one, something else. And when this came about, was I looking for this? No, but it was something that came out. It stirred something. Stirred that I wanted. I don't have an agenda. I'm not coming here with any preconceived notions of trying to come and ruffle feathers. Nothing. I just want to be here and be involved. I have 4 children. I have one at Simpson College. I have one at the high school, the middle school, and one in the elementary. So I've got all the 5 schools in town, or 4 towns, schools in town. So I'm in this community. I coach football at Simpson College. And so I've been part, and I really like to see us as a city embrace Simpson students and other Simpson students embrace us. I see it because as a coach and having a daughter there, I see them wanting. So I think this gives me a unique situation where I can bring them along and then bring us along to them.
All right, Steve, question.
Okay. Can you give me like maybe top 3 or 4 or maybe 5 priorities that you would see for the city?
5, 6. It's okay if you got 6 too. Or 3.
I just want to build on what the momentum is. I think there's a big momentum. A lot of optimism, and I want to build upon that optimism. Now, if I have set things that, being on the pool committee, how to say the pool. So switch over from the YMCA to the wellness center. Something on that would be involved with that. I think the roads in our town are something that needs significant upgrade and changing. I just got back from Philadelphia just this weekend. They have the same type of weather we have, and their roads are way nicer than we have here. And I just, not just here, I'm just talking Iowa. And so I just think that would be something we need to start getting involved in doing.
Thank you.
It's going to affect generation to generation. Because if you don't do it right, come back and my kids are going to do the same thing. Thank you.
So this appointment's gonna be for the open at large seat. As you know, that represents the whole city. So what are some of your ideas on how you could equally engage the different wards in decision-making processes and also engage citizens who are maybe not currently engaged?
I think being someone who hasn't been involved in the coming in, I can also bring that kind of mentality. I know what it's like not being involved that way. And so I think I could come in here. I have that unique, I would say unique, but I have that ability to be able to, most people know me as the weather, off the cuff weather guy. Basically, if you know most of I do humor.
You look familiar.
Well, my job, in the Air Force, I'm a weather forecaster. I'm getting my master's in meteorology from Mississippi State. I'll finish here in July, as long as I can finish the last class. But going back to your question, sorry.
You're fine.
But I just think my personality, I get along with anybody. I can just go and my first thing was just to go to each of the wards, talk to the people there, find out what is their, unique thing that they need. And then listen to them. Then I think what I do, I have a strong ability to use common sense. And what that means is there are things some people don't, they got an agenda, they're wanting something that they want, but they don't listen and they don't use common sense. How do we?
Thank you.
What Brad didn't tell you is he liked Indianola so much because he moved in across the street from me.
Yes.
And we were neighbors for years.
21-year-old was,
Yes,
we go over to her house. Yeah,
she will still come up and give us both a big hug when she sees us. She's awesome. So anyway, so I was thinking about you when I came up with our question tonight, Brad. You being a science guy, it's just like the law of physics for everything we do. Anyone at this table would agree. Everything we do, for any action, there's always an opposite and equal reaction. And, you make one person happy and you think, oh, good, did a good thing. And you turn around, you get a phone call, don't like that. And, your responsibility is to all the residents, whether you're in a ward or you're at large, the responsibility is to take care of, what's best for the entire city. So there are lots of tough decisions, at least I think. And, I would just ask you how you would handle that. I mean, I know, like you said, you're a common sense guy, you get along with everybody, but it comes down, it's kind of tough sometimes. What skills do you bring to that? What skill set do you?
Well, I've been in the military. And so I have to make tough decisions that can upset and rout. I had an example without giving away. A lot of my job is top secret because I work with the drones that fly anywhere in the world. I'm doing the weather for them. I had a colonel call in and said, "Hey, we need to fly at blah blah blah." And I said, "No, you can't fly there today. You not want to fly there today, sir." So he calls me back again, and my pilot is flying towards there, and I said, "Fly there." Probably, dude, we did. Next thing I know, I get a general, 1-star general, call me up and start chewing me out for 15 minutes about why we're going to go there. I said, "Sir, if you want to pay for that multi-million-dollar plane, you can go for it, because other than that, I'm telling my pilot not to fly there." And then that was all I did. And I know I ruffled feathers. It probably could have, he could have made my life miserable, but I had to do what's right. Thing. Not always. Is it even right for me? I have to do what's right.
Answer. Well, if you can handle a 1-star general, you can probably handle anybody in the community who's
I know I can hit.
get mad at you.
I'm handling one star, maybe. I don't know if I can handle stuff.
I mean, you could ask John, I'm a little bit of a control over here, so get to the end. What do you believe? You've said a lot, and I think kind of my second question, you kind of answered too in another way, but what do you believe the three greatest strengths of Indianola are as a city?
I just think there's a strong sense of community. We're a younger city. I mean, my wife's from up by Marshtown, you go up there and an older city. We're a younger town, we're growing, and yet, we're not growing so fast, we're gonna be like a Waukee. That's fine with me. I mean, that's fine with me. I love the community, I love the sense of, even though we're close to the city, big city, we're still kind of separated. And we have that. I also, I would say, I think we have, with that young, we have a lot of people who want to be involved. And I think they just don't know how. And that's kind of why I'm coming into it. I didn't know how to be involved, because I'm not a person who has a background in city planning, or I'm not a background in budgeting. That, how do I get involved? And this is something opportunity.
Absolutely. And I think we'll all say that we still don't know everything. And John probably after almost 12 years probably still is learning every single day. So
You have three.
I do have a follow-up question to that. I'm sorry, we should have said we could have follow-up questions if it goes. You did say something that really intrigued me, and there is this part of our community that doesn't embrace our college, right, Simpson? And as my son goes and he sees other towns, there are towns that just love their college. And so do you have any ideas how we can bridge that gap? Because I think it is going to take a multi-pronged approach here.
I think that we have to make an effort to go to them.
Absolutely.
These are kids that are coming from all over. My football team, I've got a kid, we have one from Alaska, Hawaii, who actually take my daughter, and then one from Maine. I mean, we have them all over the United States that come here. And now with gymnastics, men's gymnastics, we're one of 15 schools in the entire nation that has a men's gymnastics program. They're going against the Oklahomas and the Tennessees and the LSUs. I mean, wow, what an opportunity. They're going to have to come here every once in a while to participate in that. So, just like the Drake, having the relay shoot track meets there. What we have to do, I think we need to embrace them. We need to go to them. Now, I don't think one thing that we used to do in my church was go and do dinners with the kids and start and that kind of just started getting them into our church. Now, and do I have exact ideas yet? No, I don't have those type of things, but what I do know, those kids are starving to be a part. Because I know about 5 or 6 players usually come back and live close to here. Either it's Norwalk here or Carlisle. And I want them to stay in this town. Help recruit them, so.
Great answer. We want them to stay here too.
First of all, I love your memes all the time on your weather site. They always make me chuckle.
I take more pride in looking for a good team than I do.
What does good local governance look like to you?
Oversight, not strong oversight. I mean, if I'm saying this right, local governance should allow the people to be themselves, but yet you need to, I don't know how to word that correctly, because I think I'm going somewhere that I'm not sure I want to do.
Ron always comes in with the tough questions. Don't worry. He does it towards every meeting. So
Local governance, I think we have to have rules and regulations that do curtail and keep the community the way it is. And but I also believe that we need to also take into account what how is that affecting the majority of people? Maybe it's not just a little group of people that this rule or regulation bothers, or is trying to not bother, but trying to foul or put it, if I'm using the correct word on that one. But I also think that we need to look at how does that, is it really go, like, look at regulations, is it really, if old regulations, it's really something that needs to be here now and we can take it out. Am I on the, what you were thinking?
Yeah, yes,
Sorry,
you're good.
I'm not a public speaker.
So I'm gonna kind of piggyback off a little bit what the mayor asked. So instead of taking the positive road, and not that I want to look at negative things, but only way you're gonna get better is if you're honest with yourself and know what you need to improve on. What is one thing that you see as a city organization that we could do that we could do better at?
I think actually just kind of more outreach to everyone. I think there needs to be a better communication and outreach to it, because just being able to have it on YouTube, something like that, maybe have some, I don't know if it's possible to have meetings where we're doing it out in the community. Or do something where we have something where the people come and just ask questions. Not in a formal way, but in just kind of like an informal. And then get ideas and bounce ideas off of it. I already know one that I've had 3 people talk to me about that is the lights in the town where you're going north to south. They can be lined up right. You know, just
Yeah.
lined up so you can get through. I know multiple people who go around our town just because they can't stand going up through our town. And that's missing or business. You know, or somehow if there's ways to organize something as simple as that. I mean, you never just know. You just, people throw out ideas to people. And I think you just got to do a lot more informal meetings.
I think that's a good point. And I think we noticed that too as a council, that we were missing a communications piece that was constantly falling on Jackie, who has 5,000 million things to do already. And so that is a position we're adding. And then I've looked at a couple other cities and what they do, and they do a lot of those informal meetings. So great idea.
Just, you know, maybe throw stuff out on different social media platforms. Outside of just YouTube. And I know being 51, it's kind of like I only know 1 or 2, you know, the platforms, but you know, my kids talk about Instagram. Wife who's younger than me talks about Instagram. I mean, I don't know. How do we, you know, could we do, you know, town hall meetings where about that people could throw questions on, you know, on Facebook and we, you know, just you never.
Good memes, right? Too.
Well,
It's engagement.
Are there any follow-up questions?
I had one. So are you planning to, whether you're chosen tonight or not, are you planning to run for a longer term?
something that it's, the more I've looked into this, what to do. Love being on the pool committee, but I'm like pigeon-tailed down one area. And I can't, I see other activity, different things I would like.
Would you like to provide a closing statement?
I wouldn't really. So, no, I just.
Or closing meme.
Alright.
We got one.
Thank you for the opportunity. Again, I may not be a public speaker, but my heart and my soul is into this town. Family's here. My wife and I are gonna retire here. We have family in Florida. So I like it here. And being a weather guy, I like the 4 seasons. I do. I love winter. I want to be involved in the city. If it's this is great. Maybe someday take her spot. But, you know, but I want to be involved.
Thank
you.
you.
Brian. Very much. Butters run deep sometimes.
Doug, you look nice in that. It's hard for us.
We like to fill the void.
Very. Calm. Yeah, go in there, like fill the void as much as possible. How much more can we get done?
Jeff likes this too.
Enjoy.
Sit down.
Be in the moment.
You don't need to vacuum at 10 o'clock at night. Sit down.
Yeah.
Well, I do.
Our mothers.
Yeah.
The Dias, very good.
Hello, Brian. How are you?
Good evening, everyone.
We'll let you start with your opening speech and then we'll start with John this side of the table with questions and then.
Sure. So I guess just briefly, service is something I've done my entire life. Between my military time, between time as a local police officer, my time with the Bureau, and continuing on when I left the Bureau, working with MCMIC and other organizations. I think too often in our society right now, you can sit at home on the couch, you can be at the local bar, you can, excuse my language, bitch and moan about things that are going on in society. But unless you take that next step and become part of the solution, you're just going to be that person that goes, well, I would have done this if I had a choice or I had a voice. I think the position is important because, again, the council at large, you're representing everyone in the city. And I think that's an important duty. I think based upon my experience and my background, I would be a great candidate to help the citizens of Indianola now into the future.
All right, well, I can't piggyback off the mayor since she hasn't asked
I
for
get
a
to
question
pick
yet.
up you
She
this
can get me
time.
up, that's fine. What is? I don't like to always look at the positive, but I don't want to look at the negative, but I'm going to choose the negative here. So what is one thing as a city organization that you think that we could do better? No, we're always trying to improve, and the only way you could do that is you can take an honest look at yourself and what types of things do we need to improve? So what is one thing that you would see as a city organization that we could do better?
I think one of the most important things is more community outreach in the sense of getting comments, consideration from citizens here. Too often, I think when I talk to folks, and I saw this when I ran for sheriff, is that they felt out of touch between what was going on in local and county government. So trying to find ways to more outreach. I know we have the monthly council meetings, and you also have other meetings as well for specific issues and study sessions. But trying to find ways, whether individually, council people or the mayor going out into the community, talking to folks, I think it bringing some of that back, trying to find the people's voice makes them feel a lot more represented.
Thank you.
All right, Brian. So what does good local governance look like to you?
It's a reflection of the people they represent. And so going to my earlier comment, I think that's the most important thing that you want is you want pride in a city. You want people to say, yeah, I'm from Indianola. I'm one of the Indianola Indians. We do all these different things. And by the way, my city government passed this, or my city government did this, or I'm proud of folks in the police force, or something happened that you can kind of extol and talk to other people. When people talk about Iowa and I ask them, hey, they're moving into Des Moines. And I have a lot of friends who are still in government. I tell them the first place you got to come to is Warren County. You got to check out Indianola. Trying to talk about the growth of things that we've got as far as the business community. Some of the medical things we've had put in, the new businesses that we're seeing being produced and coming in our city. Those are things that I think we need to extol and talk about, not just here in Warren County, but also through the whole state and get more people that want to become part of our community.
Thank you, sir.
What do you believe are the 3 greatest strengths of Indianola? This is where John and I team up. We did not know what each other were gonna ask, so.
Well, I mean, I think right now, as we see now, you do have a very open community in the sense of you get people here from all walks of life. I think Indianola has kind of bypassed the idea of being a bedroom community for Des Moines. I think Indianola can rightly stand on its own, whether it's things that we do here in city government, whether it's our sports teams. I think Indianola pride that we kind of hold our own against, all comers as well as on that though too. So I guess that would be the first thing. Being the fact that we are so close to Des Moines, I guess that's the corollary to that, though. We are a great refuge for people that are just don't want that hectic issues that go on in Des Moines, where we do have, especially because Indianola has the business and has that city view, but also we have a lot of rural land as well as outside areas that kind of make it almost like you're almost kind of go back in time in a rural area. So you've got the best of both.
You.
So you've been in this room a couple times behind
have.
that podium asking for things, and we appreciate that. And just as you said earlier, hearing from the public is really important. But every time we make a decision, there's a reaction and an equal and opposite reaction to that. And so I'm wondering how you would, with a background in law enforcement, I'm sure you have no problem telling people, well, that's how it is. But when you are elected, you have to, at least I would have, that our council would find ways to bring people together, even though the decisions made are not necessarily what they're looking for. So what skills do you bring to that set of circumstances? Have one person's really happy, one person's really unhappy, because almost every time you make a vote on anything controversial.
Sure. So when you look at, I guess, the definition of politics, it's the art of compromise. And so it's one of those things that's critical, especially when you look at this particular position that myself and the other 3 candidates are putting in for, because you are the council at large. You are trying to meet the needs of not just a specific area of Indianola, but of everyone here as well too. And so when I look back at my own career, where I've had numerous challenges, both in and out of just this country, but also working with other agencies and governments and organizations, I'm trying to find out the best interest of what my organization wants, but also realizing that at the same time, we always can't have it our way. I mean, again, not to beat up on the FBI because I won't, but at the same time, they don't always get it right. But at the same time, when I was a representative of them or other agencies, it's that most important thing. We get to look across the aisle and realize, hey, I know where I'm coming from on this, but I've got to kind of take that step back and look at from their shoes going, wait a second, they have vested interest and needs as well too. So again, you have to give a little so everyone can survive sometimes, very politically charged issues that we see, not just at the national and state level, but also here as we've seen in this very council chamber.
Can you give an example of a time you've had to do that specifically?
Sure. In 2010, I was overseas in Afghanistan. I was the executive officer for about 35 FBI personnel. And so we had to deal with Department of Defense. We had to deal with other agencies there, OGA, CI, all the different ones over there as well too. And there were a couple of issues where all of a sudden some of the military personnel wanted to do things a certain way. And of course, the Bureau wanted to do it a certain way. And so it was one of those things we're kind of coming together saying, listen, at the end of the day, why are we over here in Afghanistan? What is the primary mission is to keep, not just the Afghanistan people, but also due to the fact that we were doing some issues with the security at Bagram Air Base where I was stationed at for a period of time. How do we find out, all the interests that we have across the board here, and how do we get people to actually come together and realize that, again, like I talked about earlier, we all have to give a little as well too, and through some conversation, probably a little after dark, conversations as well. We made things happen to the point where, not everybody was happy, but we came up with some great plans that made the base that we were dealing with and some of the issues on some security just a lot safer than they were before.
As you've stated, this is an at-large seat. What are some of your ideas on how to equally engage the different wards in decision-making processes of our city? And ways that you would encourage citizen engagement in areas that, or wards that aren't typically engaged?
Well, I think that it goes back to John's question earlier, as far as, some of the things, as far as bringing people together. One of the first things as a council person at large I would do would be to get with each of the individual council members as well as the mayor and find out, hey, what are the various needs that you've already seen from the citizens? Where are the gaps that all of a sudden you're seeing as far as what's going on? And then I'm trying to come up with an idea of, all right, first off, why haven't these needs been met? Because again, everybody has, it should be, because when you represent a district or a location, you should be wanting to make everything happen for your people. I mean, that's natural. So again, as that council at large person, I would hope that person would be the one to kind of bridge the gap, try to find again that conciliatory, that idea of, hey, how can we make some compromises here so everyone can come away at least satisfied somewhat. Additionally, going out into the community, trying to find ways, depending upon how much breadth that you had as that position as a council at large person, going into the community, making yourself available. Between social media, one of the things I did in my past life, and I realized as well when I did certain things, is you have to make yourself available to the community. When I talked to my wife about this position, she was not all that happy that I was deciding to at least poke my toe back, because she didn't like my run for sheriff, because again, you are an object and people are looking at you a certain way. I told her, like I said earlier, if you want to make change in the community, you have to be part of the community. And so one of the other things, besides reaching out and getting the temperature of what's going on here, you have to go outside and get the temperature of the community itself. Figure out, hey, what are they needing? Where are they feeling they're not getting the needs met? And then help in bringing that to the rest of the council members as the person involved.
Brian, what do you see as the top 3 to 5 priorities for the city in the next 3 or 4 or 5 years?
I think the one that weighs on so many people right now is just taxes, in the sense of revenue and how it's being spent. I think nobody wants to have more taxes in the sense of on their house or for their tags or for any of the things that we see both state, local, and federal government put on us. What I think people want to see is that with their tax dollar, that it's being spent wisely. And so I think one of the first things to do is on all the revenue that is directly or per se utilized by the city, really have a clear-cut understanding for the citizens that, hey, we are doing this because of this. We're using your tax dollars wisely. And like I talked earlier about being the council person at large, bringing that full circle back when all of a sudden you're getting pushback. It's critically important that the citizens know that every dime that's being spent is being spent wisely on their behalf. And that kind of goes to, I guess, a corollary or a secondary thing is making sure that we're doing our best to keep in check. You know, wasteful spending doesn't happens across the board in all levels of government, though. So we have to kind of look at what we're doing right now. If the public doesn't understand why we're spending the money, we have to educate them, or maybe all of a sudden we're looking at things the wrong way, because again, at the end of the day, everybody in this room, minus the people that are going to be elected today, are, voted because of the citizens wanted there to be the will of the people. That's why I think that's critically important. The second thing I would say is growth. I think we have to look at the growth of Indianola. We're very fortunate that we do have some areas that we can grow into. And so balancing, and again, I was here speaking numerous times, I think at least 3 times on dealing with issues with competing properties in my neighborhood. I know everybody here has a kind of a different view and opinion on that, but I think it's important, and I'm glad it kind of worked out the way it did, because it's important that the needs of the community are reflected into what's actually going to be happening. And that didn't happen, but that's not to say that we don't need more housing. It's not to say that we don't need more business, that we don't need more other critical infrastructure in our town. So again, it's that balance and all those things. So growth would probably be my second thing, because we do have the room to expand. And then I guess the third thing would be is a sense of community. And kind of what I mean by that is the fact that there is, I think sometimes, and again, I wish there was a whole crowd of people in here. I know I was talking inside there, I guess there's like 6 or 7 people on YouTube watching what's going on, but we have to do a much better job, because again, it shouldn't just be the older folks. We've got some young folks in here too, but again, I'm probably a little bit older than most of the people in the room here, but at the same time, we have to energize our youth to realize that they need to participate in political process. They need to participate in government because my fear is, and I think it's a fear that many share, is the fact that we've lost a generation to the damn phone. They can't get out of it. They can't get out of their own head. And they don't realize that. To me, I've been blessed. I truly believe that, to have been able to have public service in my life for decades now. And I want to continue that. But that would be the third thing is utilizing that seat as councilperson at large, seeing how you can show young folks, grade school, middle school, high school, in the sense, and also our folks at Simpson, because again, that kind of ties into it too. I guess this is the fourth, so I'm going to go on a little bit farther, Steve, but the fact that there is not, when you go downtown or see things, I think we definitely need some more involvement with great folks at Simpson College. We're not getting that. We're not, I think, an integral part of the community that they could be.
Thank you.
Are there any follow-up questions?
Can I just follow up with a real quick question? So from a physical standpoint of the needs of the city as far as infrastructure, those kinds of things, do you have any kind of a feel of what might be a top priority there for you?
I think the top priority to me would be twofold. One, I think it would be affordable housing. I think getting that going through there, but also you can't have one without the other. And we're fortunate. We've got some of the best police and I think in the state. But again, we got to pay them too. We have to make sure that they're, so for the city workers and the folks that are, putting their lives on the line for our PD, for this building, because actually we do need, City Hall, we need things. We need to have these things. We have to sell the people of Indianola the fact that how are some ways that we can actually, using the word increase taxes, but at the same time find alternative revenue streams. And the only way to do that on the second thing besides housing and bringing in great people, more great people in Indianola, is bringing in great business. And so that would be the two-tiered approach in making business affordable, and the fact that at a certain point, I know there's abatements and certain things bringing businesses in, but we have to realize long-term goals. If we want Indianola to expand and we want to provide the great services and continue them, we have to have that business revenue. And again, if I think we put it on the revenue of the businesses versus the citizens, I think everybody comes out ahead.
Follow-up questions? Okay, so if you'd like to give a closing statement.
Oh, just thank you all very much for your time. You've got some great candidates tonight, and I hope I'm the one that comes up here. Anyway, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
There are 9 watchers right now, so just, there are 9 people on YouTube watching.
Oh, good.
Good.
There we go. Got some more.
Good. To hear that. Wish they would. Do we need to tell them to hit the like button and make sure that gets that moved up
The share button.
Yeah, exactly. That's right.
Like, subscribe, share.
Hammer that.
Hashtag, whatever we need to do, right?
Hashtag Indianola community.
Let's move on.
So are you recording all this?
He's so happy.
Oh,
I'm happy.
Sometimes I do, not always.
No, but Brian.
If I need something, I just go back to the.
Is that we pray around? And get that map initially, right? So we didn't add it.
Check it out.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for, I guess for me, it's kind of coming back to do this again, many years ago. Yes, 2 years.
It seems like it's been 4. Don't worry, it seems like it has been a long time.
So to start off with, I'm Randy Bickham. I've lived in Indianola now for about 18 years. I have 7 children. My 19th grandchild will be born this summer. I just had number 18 just a few weeks ago, number 17 a few weeks before that one. So they're coming pretty quickly now. But with that, Indianola has been a great place for me to raise my family. When we moved here 18 years ago, we looked at a lot of communities around this area. Spent time trying to figure out what's going to be the right area for our family, and we felt Indianola was it. They had the programs that we wanted in the schools for our children, and nice community. It was independent. We're close to Des Moines, what Des Moines has to offer, but it wasn't a suburb of Des Moines, own independent community. And the more that we've been here, the more that we have has to offer and provide for here. It's a wonderful place. The people are friendly, open, and it was a great education for my children to be able to grow and to develop. Sent them all off to college. Now they've almost all of them are married. Most of them are married now, and many of them are moving back. Their children with them. And I want to be able to help Indianola continue to grow, thrive, so that my grandchildren are going to be coming through and living here. They have the same experience that their parents. I want to get back and put back into the community what I've received over 18 years. That's really what my goal is, to be able to do that. I feel I have a really solid background that would allow me to be able to do that.
Thank you. Well, Gwen, we'll start with you.
One of the things I find most challenging is, and John told me this from the beginning, you have to quit worrying about that, but it's not my personality, and my personality brings other strengths. But one of the toughest things I think is that, as you know, every time you make a decision, there's an opposite. For every reaction, there's an opposite reaction. Okay, so you're gonna have some people happy, some people mad. And I'm sure you've had experience in that, but maybe give us an example of a time where you've had to make difficult decisions and share that news with people who matter to you and are going to be disappointed by it.
Okay, I'll take actually a fairly recent example. I was a project manager currently a project manager with General Dynamics Information Technology. They are a large contracting, primarily focused on government agencies, federal and state and local. And on this contract, I was working with the Veterans Administration. And spending the time in there, we had to be able to balance what the budget was going to allow us to do, what the end user wanted to be able to do, which we were supporting call centers so that when veterans would call in with questions, they were using the applications that we were developing. So the call center representatives would go get this information quickly and to be able to relay that information back to the veterans to help them get the aid or needs that they needed. And so a lot of times we would come into scenarios that it would be a case of, okay, the end user was wanting this. I mean, the call center agents, they needed this function. And management wanted something different. That they wanted something different than that agent. To be able to, and they both wanted to be able to support the member, but they were also both looking at it from a different perspective. I was looking at it to say, okay, we need to be able to get more calls in, during the day. So we need to be able to trim each call down. The agents are looking at it, well, I need to be able to spend the time. And on top of that, to be able to accommodate both sides, it was going to cost more, which then pushed it out of their budget range. As the project manager, my role was being able to go through all of those different people and to be able to help compromise and to say, okay, we can get you this. Are you willing to sacrifice this over here? And to be able to kind of negotiate that back and forth between the different parties involved, so that in the end, everybody got a little bit of what they wanted and was happy because we also kept it under the budget. They didn't have to go back and say, okay. So I've done that repeatedly throughout my career. Doing project management, it really just comes down to that you're going to have multiple people that are going to want different things, and somebody's not going to be happy with it. But your best option is just trying to look at it to say, okay, here's the pros and the cons of each one, and this is where it's going to come out. And make that decision and move forward and try to help everybody realize here's the positives, here are the pluses that we're getting, and this is why I would.
Tina, you wanna go? Maybe that wouldn't.
So this appointment is for the at-large seat, as you know, that represents the whole city. What are some of your ideas on how to equally engage the wards in the decision-making process for our city? And also engaging citizens that maybe are in wards or areas that are not currently as engaged?
It's actually a difficult one to be able to do, to really fully engage across the community. I know a lot of people here in Indianola, and they live throughout the entire city. So part of that helps because, you know, I spend time at the different, in those neighborhoods and different things like that. And it's hard to be able to get people who don't want to be engaged. And to be able to engage. The best thing is to be able to be available. Make it so that it's, you know, looking at all the different media. I'm in IT. And there are a lot of different technology avenues that can be utilized to be able to get that information out there so that people are able to reach you, to be able to get your feedback or that I can get their input on different things. But it's a really challenging thing trying to get everybody to want input to be able to make certain that you're reaching all of them. The real thing is to recognize the fact that I am representing everybody. When I ran for council 2 years ago, I was running for an at-large seat. And so that's one of the things that I had to focus on. I couldn't just focus on the people that I lived around. I had to go to the other neighborhoods to be able to knock on doors, talk to people in these other areas to say, what's your input? Yeah. So I would look at continuing that. Hopefully we would do that as a whole council. Specific areas independently. Council record, city perspective.
Randy, you've been to a number of council meetings, and you just mentioned you knock doors and things like that. What do you think are right now for this city and city council are the top priorities, 3 to 5 top priorities that you think we need to focus on?
I think some of the top priorities that we've got coming into the city is Indianola being able to retain its identity and be able to have a positive growth cycle. If we aren't able to continue to grow the city of Indianola in a positive direction, and this is going to cover all aspects of it, from our infrastructure to businesses, to our schools, to our quality of life that we've got here. If we can't continue to grow that, the other communities that are experiencing this rapid growth, they're going to take it from Indianola. And Indianola is slowly going to begin and suffer because the growth is going outside of Indianola. That is going to other communities. Now, I'm not an advocate to say, oh yeah, grow for all, you know, it's got to be a controlled and a sustainable growth. You know, if we light a bonfire, it's going to go up in a big burst of flame, but it's done pretty quickly. So we need to be able to look at the community and say, how can we maintain the growth patterns that we want? I look at Ankeny, who's experienced tremendous growth over the last 10 years or so. And you go up there and their infrastructure, and it needs a lot of help. They've grown so fast that their streets can't handle the population. I mean, they're struggling to be able to handle what they've grown so quickly. And so I look at Indianola, we don't want it. We don't want that. We don't want to become Ankeny. We want to stay Indianola. We want to be able to look at it and say, okay, how can we keep the positive things going within our community and address areas that we're struggling? Okay, we need to address this issue. And so some of the leading issues that we've got right now is we do have some infrastructure needs that we've got to be able to address. That we've got to look at it and say, okay, you know, what are we going to do for the county buildings, or I mean, the city buildings? How are we going to address those? I think we need to look at some of the infrastructures. We've got the sewer lines throughout the city that are 100 years old. And that we need to look at and say, okay, we've got to be able to put money into these. We've got to be able to balance that infrastructure growth we got there. We need, we've got the new projects that we're going in that we're trying to build our industrial sector to be able to facilitate new jobs. That we've got to be able to have that growth. So that people that are moving to Indianola, that they can work here and that they have solid incomes. Solid incomes, bring solid housing, solid community members, that they're buying at our local stores or businesses, they're shopping here, they're dining out here. We need to be able to look at that to say, what are we providing? And then we need to look at, okay, quality of life issues, just things like what are we providing in the Parks and Rec perspective that we're allowing. So those are some of the areas that it's.
So one of the things that I've always tried to do in time of service, whether here or school board, is that not only do you want to look at the positive things, but you also need to look at the negative things. What's not going well? How do you improve that? So as a community, as a city structure, what is it one thing that you see that we don't do very well that we need to improve on?
One of the primary things that I think we've improved on is the city council. It's functioning much better. I see a lot better cohesiveness. I read trying to follow what's going on, and a lot of that difficulty that was going on has diminished significantly. And I'm not trying to disparage anybody that was on the council or anything like that. It's just sometimes the committees just they butt heads with trying to get things together. I see that often with work. I organize new teams, that some teams just function better. So I see that because from a leadership perspective, if the leadership of the community isn't on a united front, then that's going to start trickling down into other aspects within the community. And the community is going to feel that, and they're going to struggle with it. Some of the areas that I think is that for a little while, I think the city was focused on, trying to keep up with the neighbors a little bit more than trying to keep up with Indianola. And to say, this is us. We're not trying to be somebody else. We're trying to be us. And focused on, I guess to me it would be that we kind of lost our way from seeing that isn't city is kind of correct, and that we're moving and we're recognizing, okay, we've got city ordinances that are years old. And we need to start going through some of those and updating those, seeing that, okay, here are some of the infrastructure things that in the past, it was, use the phrase, just kicking the can down the road. It's the case of we can't kick that can down the road in time that these get addressed. And so we're trying to address them. And not everybody is always going to be happy with how they get addressed, but it's a positive direction. The city is trying to build and develop that infrastructure.
Good evening, Randy. What does good local governance look like to you?
Good local governance is it's not a dictatorship. It's not that we live in a bubble that it's like, okay, this is what I want. It's got to be what the community wants. We need to be able to look at it, and we're going to bring all of our individual preferences into something. If I had my preference, we're going to build a ton of bike trails all over the place. But that's not necessarily the best place. The question I think is probably it's got to be a discussion that people have got to be able to look at it from what is it the community needs, and then try to bring that back in so that from a governance perspective, we're governing for the people that we represent. We sit here and make the decisions and try to make the best path forward. It's the community as a whole. And so to Christina's question earlier, we need to be looking at all the avenues within the community. what is going to be in the feedback? And what is their feedback? We've got a large demographic difference, you know, from an economic perspective. And then we need to be able to look at all those different things to say, this is the direction we need to go with their input and try to make that move forward. Some of it is we're also going to bring a little bit of our own personality into those decisions. That we can't always just pick favorite. Is got to be able to put some of our own feedback in. So that was what the community has.
Thank you.
Last question. You said something I really liked. You said your children, they're moving back here, their grandkids. That is my biggest accomplishment, I hope, is that my children choose Indianola, and that means we've been successful here. So, with all that said, what do you believe are the 3 greatest strengths of Indianola currently possessed?
One of the things that I think Indianola, so from a family perspective, I actually think our school districts are one of our biggest strengths. We've got a wonderful school district here that provides a good education, provides excellent opportunities. I was at the high school play just the other night, and they did a wonderful performance. I mean, the stage was excellent lines that they had done, and kids performed well. I know the show choirs, when kids get involved in the show choirs. My kids were going through, they opened up a new show choir because they had too many people, and they're trying to give everybody that opportunity. So it's a great avenue for families to be able to do that. But the other thing is Indianola provides a lot of community events. We have a lot of parades that we've got that have go on, but there are a lot of other community things that go in, and people know each other here. It's not a case of you go home and you never ever talk to your neighbors. It's that you interact with them, that you get to know them. So I'm sitting down, we were joking down here while waiting to come in that, you know, the real interview was you guys actually had a secret camera down there. As we're talking, you know, everybody, they're finding the connections in the 4 candidates that we've got here. That it's like, oh yeah, you know, you live just down the street from me, or they're involved in soccer together, or you know, whatever it might be. And that's common. I mean, it's not just for candidates that we're vying for city council. It's that you get that all over the that people are friendly, and that they're able to touch base. So that's part of what built it. Part of also what built it. You know, our police departments, fire departments do a wonderful job. You know, it's nice that when you read through the police reports that we don't have serious crimes like what you're getting in some of the other cities. And when we do start to trend that way, they stop it. They go in and the issues get corrected and things move forward. And keep the city clean. The crime rate is low. It's not that we don't have some issues and some problems that need to be addressed, but we don't have the issues and problems a lot of other communities have.
Thank you.
Are there any follow-up questions? So you have a couple minutes to say a closing statement if you like.
Okay. Well, I appreciate the opportunity. That chance to be able to get some information about some of the questions. Hope you pick. I would look forward to being able to sort of be able to find balance in the city council. Community.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You have some great candidates.
We do. That was delightful to see.
Yeah.
You know, encouraging.
you know, I've gotten a few ideas out of this. I need to be having a forum. It's a good thing that's coming in. At the library or something. Good. You tried that? No.
Funny how they always.
Age. We're gonna start with you.
Right up and go for it. I know, I know.
Josh. Sorry, you have 5 minutes.
Sure. Yeah. I just want to say thank you all for having us all here tonight and yeah, you speak a little bit. I know a lot of you through just personal lives and service around here for years. What you guys have done. You know, I thought I'd start with I wrote the little bio kind of that you guys all got. I thought I'd just share a little bit more. My wife and I, we did move here from Northern California back in 2011. Our son is a Californian. Our daughter is proudly Iowan. Finds us pretty regularly. But we're both born and raised in Northern California, and I spent, quite honestly, the first 28 years of my life pretty adamant that I would never live in the state of Iowa. We came back and visited quite a bit with family. My dad's from here, and my son was a newborn. We were coming back for a wedding, and my wife and I, we were young and barely anything. If we're looking for a new start, and we thought that was maybe like moving to a town a half hour away or something like that, taking a road trip back here. I just fell in love. Like the minute we drove in the state, I've driven the state a lot of times and never had that feeling. We spent a week here and on the drive back knew that this is where we needed to be for our family. And we started the process, and about a year or so later, we moved here. I ended up in Indianola. Honestly, I still don't know exactly. I have family here. And again, it was probably more like, if I'm never going to live in Iowa, I'm definitely never going to live in Indianola. And when we came here to start looking for houses, we spent all our time looking around Windsor Heights at the time, Urbandale, Waukee, right, West Des Moines, even up in Ankeny, family up there. But we were staying in Indianola and with family. And we got home. Why didn't we look anywhere in Indianola? We liked that the best at all the places we went. And so we rented a place sight unseen and moved back here, and you're renting fine. Again, we were raising our kids here. Our kids both go to school. Bella's in 5th grade at Irving, 8th grade at middle school. We love the town. We were attracted because we felt like it was a nice mix of amenities. With still a lot of small town feel. The schools were good size, there was a lot of opportunity for our children, but they weren't so big that they would get lost in that shuffle. It felt right. And so that's ultimately why we ended up being here. You know, I've been involved with a lot of different things over the years, my wife as well, and it's been fun to watch it grow. We certainly have come a long ways. I think the future is really bright for this town, watching what has happened over the last 10 years or so. We have a nice mix of residential developments that are coming up, right? We've got some big home builders actually looking at this town and developing homes in town, which is infrastructure projects, right? And streetscape, doing the wastewater treatment facilities, looking at the new City Hall public safety building, right? Eventually maybe a library, taking on and turning that into a wellness center. We've done a lot of, you guys have done a lot of the hard work to get continued growth. And I love that. I love that I've been a part of it to this point on the private side. I've developed several projects in town in my career for different folks. And I just look forward to what that future brings. I think it's important that we listen to our citizens and staff here as well, right? That's a big part of what has driven the city to this point. We have a tremendous city staff. Citizens are always really good at telling you what they want. And our job is to listen and to balance both of those. I think that for all the good work we've done in a lot of these areas. We still have a lot of work to do, especially on our highway corridor, from a commercial development perspective. There's a lot that needs to be opened up or redeveloped to kind of really take us to that next level. And, you know, ultimately, I think, and I don't want to take this too long, I feel like Indianola is kind of almost born here a few years ago with some new growth, some new ideas, some new plans, and really we're in that growth stage, that young stage where we're still figuring it out and setting up where the next 20 to 30 years are going to look like for everybody. And, you know, this is gonna be the one campy part that I say, but like one of my favorite quotes in life, right, is this conservationist guy that I follow. You know, it's not ours, it's just our turn. And I always try to like look at that in my life a lot. I feel like a position like this, with the experience I have with the folks that are working here, it's a tremendous opportunity to grow the city for my kids, for other people's kids and kids, you know, and for all of us to enjoy it while we go. That's a little more about me.
Go.
Go ahead, Ryan.
Yeah. Good evening, Josh. What does good local governance look like to you?
Yeah, I think it's always a tough one, especially in a smaller town, right? Like I mentioned earlier, citizens are usually good about telling you what you want. Sometimes in life, what we want is not always what's best for us. So for me, it's, you have to be listening a lot. When you have input from people, listening to them, listening to staff, listening to people that are stakeholders in your life that have helped shape your experience, right? Ultimately doing your best in that listening to make the best decisions for the city going forward. It's not always the right. It's not always the easy decision. It's not always what people want to hear. Sometimes it is, and that's really fun. We run into that in planning and zoning quite a bit, right? Like, it's always fun when everyone agrees with you, but sometimes you have to say the hard thing because you know it's right. You've listened to the staff, your other council members, right? Your engineers, whatever experts you're using in the field. And so for me, good local governance is listening and then best to act on, right?
Thank you.
Well, you said a couple of them already. Are you sure you weren't listening to us down there? You answered some of our questions already. What do you believe are the 3 greatest strengths of Indianola?
Yeah, think that, you know, we have, just from an overall perspective, we have tremendous amenities available to as citizens to enjoy. And I think that's what draws a lot of people here is for that small town feel. You have things like the National Balloon Classic, right? That bring people from all over, and it can be just a tremendous family experience. You've had to why now it's going to be the new Indianola Wellness Center. Have town square that's bustling and there's shopping opportunities. So that's I think one of our biggest strengths is that diversity that we bring to the table. Other thing that I really like about this town is that it has its own feel. You know, there's nothing wrong with being a bedroom community of Des Moines, and to a certain extent we are. But geographically, we're just never going to sprawl into Des Moines. That lets you be independent and have your own feel to that type of stuff. You don't have to form on everything. That's 2. You said 3 things that I think are great about Indianola, right?
Well, I wrote down 5 that you wrote, so that's good.
Counting's hard sometimes.
You can be good at everything, Josh, right? So
I take notes.
counting's hard for me too. I get it. No, you have mentioned a lot of great strengths we have here. So
Perfect.
Yeah.
We'll wrap it up.
your question too, I'm like, well, he was getting you.
I know, you've kind of already answered my question. I've asked everybody, you know, for every action, there's an equally opposite reaction and equal and opposite reaction. And so as you alluded to, you know, it's, you make a decision, you're gonna make some people happy, you're not gonna make everybody happy. So I think you've kind of already covered that. So I'm just going to go with my follow-up question that would be, how do you see yourself specifically in this role? You know, you've addressed that it's an at-large position, but and none of us, I think we would all agree, none of us have an agenda, but there's something that kind of prompted us to run.
Yeah.
You know, something you want to change or work on or be a part of.
Love to share. I mean, a lot of you know that I've been in and around involved in various levels of the city functioning here and help different folks run for office in the past. And I've considered it for years. Far back is been a while ago now. That's hard in a few years. And for me, just the timing was never right for me, for my family, for all of that. And so I've done my best to stay involved. For me right now, why I want to get involved and what I see myself bringing is, man, I want to keep doing great stuff for my kids. Right? This is where I raise them. Where roots are planted, and I think that my opportunity here is, like all of us, we have a lot of different experience. Mine's pretty balanced between a lot of personal stuff and a lot of work stuff. My work is very heavy on real estate development, construction, right? All that stuff. So I bring that perspective really, really well. And I think it's exciting because, like I mentioned before, like there's a lot of tremendous opportunity, a lot of work to be done. That takes steps. So I think my angle is that to see that grow forward in a very balanced way and not too chaotic.
So this appointment's going to be for the at-large seat. As you know, that seat represents the whole city.
Sure.
What are some of your ideas on how you can equally engage the different wards in the decision-making processes of our city and also encourage citizen engagement in areas or wards where they typically aren't engaged?
Yeah. First and foremost, it comes with having a very collaborative relationship with those of you that represent. Like you have the majority of time to devote to those and be very specific. So that's the first step in that. The second thing is us to have a pretty diverse friend group in a lot of it. We got friends all over town. We spend time all over. It's just being intentional with that and talking to people, understanding it. And so that's the challenge with that, though. You don't want to create your own echo chamber where you're just hearing from people that right? So it's attending community events, it's being involved in different things, different parts of town, and then probably times doing stuff that normally isn't my cup of tea, but that's what you do, and take the time to be out there at the places that people want to go, and be a part of those things. So I think if you kind of try to have that balanced approach, hopefully you figure it out and hear everybody. And I would count on, if I wasn't hearing enough from one of your wards, one of you that represent one would be upside the head and better attention. So figuratively.
Hi, Josh. Top priorities that you would have if you are appointed this position, as far as what do you think the top priorities ought to be for the council and the city in general? Years or so, and 2 or 3 of those, if you can come up with something.
That'll count better this time. I think, one of the things that's impressed me the most that we've done over the last few years, the city is really do tremendous work on our budget, right? And our finances in the city. So I think you have to continue that, because what that's let us do over the last few years is make great investments into public safety, right? Which is a huge, huge one. It's allowed us to make great infrastructure investment that really poises for growth. So first and foremost is that we need to stay diligent on that front, right? Make sure that we're watching that money as it comes in and where we're allocating it, and keep those things moving forward. I know we have the public safety city hall building is a big project coming up potentially. I think that's going to require a lot of time and effort. Huge benefit to the city. Our staff and our civil servants aren't housed well, for lack of a better word. It's hard for them to serve the citizen, right? So it's up to us on council to make sure that we're doing that. That's a huge one. And so third one, again, I think for us, we're doing so much better on economic development and growth, but that's a big tax bill that we need to increase. So I see the biggest opportunity there, as I've said it now a couple of times, on our highway corridor. Really simple things that can be done to help encourage that. That would be the other area that I would say.
Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
Hello, Josh. Thanks for coming tonight. So I always talks positive. not everything's always positive, and the only way you're gonna improve is to know what you're not doing well. So tell me one thing that we as a community organization don't do very well.
Didn't know when a question like that would come from. Oh, you know, that's a tough mindset. That's a great question. I've spent a lot of time the last few weeks thinking about all the things that I love, right, that make you want to be a part of it. And I didn't throw my hat in right away when the stuff came out because I really want to take some time to think on it and make some calls and understand where I'm at, you know. I do think that one area that we've struggled with in the past, and I think it's getting better, but it probably needs to get better faster, is how we communicate outward messages, right, with citizens, with other cities, and just making sure that that's a clear voice that goes out, right? Voice, ideally. We agree on stuff and we move forward and outwards to citizens, to other organizations, cities, whoever we're doing that with. It's the easiest way to fix a lot of things. So again, I think it's gotten better, but it could.
Thank you.
Council have any follow-up?
I was just gonna follow up on John's there, if I could. You mentioned other cities, communicate with other cities. What would you have in mind there? I like that idea, but what?
Well, I mean, I know that I'm blessed to work with cities all over the country, right, in my job, and even Ben can talk about this. We've talked about it a lot. Because I hang out where Ben used to hang out a lot. You know, it's even, there's organizations like city managers and administrators that all get together and share ideas, right? There's opportunities for community development to do stuff like that. But generally speaking, it's also making sure that everyone knows what we're doing. Make sure other cities know what we're doing. Sometimes we have these relationships, really communicating what we're trying to get done. They might have done some of that already, learned some good lessons from them. There's also, you know, tremendous opportunities in just selling each other's products. We're all in Iowa, and we're all in the Des Moines metro. And we view that pairs well with other cities. Maybe brings more attention to ours by elevating them as well.
I got a question for you, Josh. I was reading through your resume and
Yeah.
and when you talk about your job, it sounds like you probably travel quite a bit.
Yeah.
You know, is that going, if you were chosen, would that your travel interfere with
I don't think so.
with council duties?
I tend to travel Tuesday through Thursdays. Schedule is incredibly flexible. I tell everybody, gone more, but I'm home better than I've ever been in my life. I used to work a lot of hours locally and a lot more time there. I set my own schedule and it's really a Tuesday through Thursday.
I went into this thinking, well, not knowing, I guess, I went into this not knowing the time involvement. And let's just say the pay versus the hours, it isn't quite where it needs.
Really romantic, but yeah, that's one thing in taking years to be around this and involved. There's a reason why I didn't do it. Had interest for a long time and it wasn't right. I feel pretty confident that my work-life balance is good. Thank you for looking out for me though, Ron.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Appreciate that.
Is this something that you think that you're looking at doing short term, or are you looking long term as well?
My hope would be kind of test it out and make it something. I don't, well, haven't left P and Z for a long time. I think it's
Give a closing statement?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we want to have everyone come back?
I'm sure Andy has some fun back. Why? This is a part-time job. It's 24/7.
Oh, Trace.
It really is. I mean, I emailed you at like 9 o'clock last night and you responded like at 9:30. I mean, it's.
Yeah,
Amongst
my wife has pointed out, it's not been a cost of living adjustment. Okay, in the last 12 years, so.
take any pay. I would volunteer anyway.
Hey, when I was on school board, I got a free pass to go to attend any event at the school, free. Actually, that probably worked out better pay than anything as my kids were.
Hey,
all
you all can come to bingo on Fridays,
Not anymore.
win your dollars.
And we're gonna.
Get everyone. I don't know.
Down there.
I think Jackie's in charge of this group. No, Ben.
Well, we just want to thank all of our candidates. I think all of you did an exceptionally good job and the city will be well served by all of you. Of course, we can only choose one, and so the council's given the opportunity to write their top two candidates down. If you want to
We
pass
got purple or yellow, which one are we on?
those on top.
Okay.
Or did you already write purple? That's
P.S. I think you're all great. I don't have a vote. I would put you all up here if I could, so. The hard decisions really on these five.
when you're.
Do you want to pass them down to you or?
Pass them on.
Yeah, if you want to fold them in half, and I don't want to,
Fold them in half.
don't want to breach your confidence on your. Nice touch.
I shuffle them all up so we don't know who they are.
All right.
There we go.
Did we employ the services of major auditing?
Then you have to be great. And it has to be 4-1.
Okay. We have a first place and 3 second places.
Number. Because it does have to be a 4-1 vote, right? That's like, so in this situation, will we revote again then in a 1 or? I guess we didn't talk through this, but what would happen in you're all equally great.
Maybe we should tear this in two and take a second vote.
And pick one.
You sure can.
Just pick one, I just go the half, just pick the one, pick one then.
I'll let you 5
What do you
lead that
think?
conversation.
You wanna do it?
You 5 want to do it.
The only other,
I think that's probably the other thing they could do.
I think that's
other than the ranking, but I don't think we do.
I don't want to get into that, yeah.
We just vote again.
Just vote again. One name. Okay.
Are you all good with that?
Comes up, the person who's already, got the first.
What's that?
What if we all vote for that one person and, but it's already the person who has the most votes over there?
Let me ask this question.
Yeah,
The person
city
has the
board.
most votes, was it 5 votes, 4 votes? What was it? 3?
Oh, 3, it is 3.
We've really always done it.
Yeah,
haven't
we, if that's the case.
It was 1. It was 1.
So do you want to do a second vote?
I don't-
or-
I don't think there's a need to. There's 4 votes anyway, at least for that.
Legal opinion?
No, you, this is kind of your procedure, but it takes 4, it got 4. I don't see, I guess there could be a possibility the second vote could do something else, but I doubt it.
Yeah, I doubt it.
But there is no prescribed procedure on how you do. that.
Yeah.
It's already been done.
Yeah.
Yes.
All okay with that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You, Christina?
Christina, are you?
I mean, we did tell them we were gonna do it a certain way. I feel like we should stick to that, but I may be the odd man out on that.
I don't care either way.
if you wanted to have a second vote, what I'd suggest is you've got top vote getter, it's clear. Vote for the other three to see who's your number two, and then run a number two candidates together.
I honestly think though that we've got four
You got
votes.
four.
We got four votes.
I don't care.
Just want you to be comfortable with it. I mean, I know.
No, I mean, yeah, whatever, I
Make a
mean.
good.
Just probably didn't anticipate the.
Right, none of us did.
Gonna do another vote and see if it comes up with the exact same result? Because chances are it might, if
Should.
If you all do a single vote,
yeah, one vote, only one.
just maybe give a more clarity to the,
That's what I thought. That's,
Well, y'all were just so equally as great. It was really hard.
I've got mine written.
All right, we'll do one more.
Rex just wants to go get his supper.
No, we'll have to have this or not.
Get him.
Meeting's really short tonight.
definitely think it's.
Yes, I don't ever say those words until it's over. That would be like, what's this supposed to be? And I have no idea.
Well, Ben, with you, it was just a one and done. We just knew. So natural.
Now, if we end up 3-2, we are in trouble.
Rex is like praying for an emergency over there to get out of here. I gotta go? Okay, on my way.
Okay, we got our vote.
And the winner is Josh Rabe.
Congratulations.
Jerry. Thank you, everybody else. Yes.
So we will take a quick 2-minute break, run to the restroom. Sparks needs to get back on the street. And then Josh, if you want to call your family, otherwise they can come to the next meeting for the photo op.
Activities, my wife will be down a little bit.
Okay. Great. Yeah. And thank you, Brandy, Brian, and Brad.
Yeah. And there is now
All back. Twenty 2023, please rise for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance
The flag.
The United
States of America. And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Jackie, would you call the roll?
Parker,
Present.
Lee,
Here.
Porter,
Present.
Beach, here, Richardson,
Present.
Mayor Erickson.
Present. On into the public comment section. We have two forms. Currently, if there's anyone else after these two go, you can come to the lectern and state your name and address. We will start with Sue Wilson. And one was Press Drive.
Hello. How is everybody?
Thanks for being here, Sue.
Hey, so I'm here on a few things, but May is Mental Health Awareness Month. So happy May Day, happy Mental Health Awareness Month. Back in January, there were a group of us that got together, Warren County supervisors, I believe the city council was involved, the school board, and we all really shared what our initiatives were, what our goals are for our certain group of people we represent. And by and large, it was mental health. And how do we start to support our communities? How do we support to educate? Okay, that's the big one. And so we left, which I'm the current executive director for, actually stands for We Learn Independence for Tomorrow. So our goal is to take anyone that walks through our doors and get them to economic self-sufficiency through compassion, integrity, and dignity. So through this process, you learn that there's an intersection between homelessness, mental health, substance abuse, domestic violence, brain injury, whatever it may be, food insecurity. So you can't really address one without looking at the big picture. So in March, some of you, I know Steve attended our reentry simulation, Mayor Erickson did as well, to really start opening people's eyes of what are the challenges that we have in our community and our county and our city, trying to return citizens back in. The end of that 2-hour event ended in a big talk about mental health. And so we have teamed up, WeLift has teamed up with the Chamber, the Chamber Conference, and on May 16th, we're hosting a morning, I believe to be a very powerful event. It is called Mental Health in the Workplace. And by the Mental Health Index report, 92% of business leaders said mental health support became the high priority for their company over the last year. And so this event is going to start out with a speaker that Ron is the clinical manager of the outpatient inpatient therapy services for House of Mercy. He's going to talk about how can we talk with our employers, our businesses, our community compassionately about those that have undergone trauma. And what does trauma look like? The actual definition of trauma. WeLift is invested in the mental health perspective by sending me to a 6-week training on C3 de-escalation. So de-escalation is how do we de-escalate a situation, right? So for our city workers that are on the front lines, IMU that have customers coming in that are going to get disconnected, people that we see on the street that don't look like us. How do we engage in these conversations? How do we de-escalate a situation when we need to? In my work every day, both at the food pantry and at WeLift, I use de-escalation techniques probably hourly. And I use them constantly with my lovely teenage daughters at home. So it really is, I'm going to give a 40-minute overview of what de-escalation is and what it looks like if we really start training our community in the 6-hour training curriculum of de-escalation. And then we're ending the morning with a local businessman here who is one of the gentlest people you will ever meet. He's going to talk about the night he tried to take his life. And he's going to talk about the mental health and the substance abuse that was brought forward in all this. Our end goal this is to really start talking about the stigma we put on our own community. I will tell you right now, if you think substance abuse is only happening in a certain class of people, we're wrong. Okay, so this is what this morning is supposed to be. It's supposed to educate our business, our communities, our employees, give them tools from this de-escalation that they can walk away with and use immediately. And then listen to listen to one of our dearly beloved business owners here in town that is on a much better path than he was a couple months ago. So we hope you guys will join us. We hope you'll push out the information to different organizations to.
Where will that be held at?
So Indianola Freedom Fellowship has donated their space to us. So it will either be at the Lighthouse Community Center or Indianola Freedom Fellowship because they completely donated their space to us. So on one little side note too, and this isn't more to brag about We Lift, but to talk more about the bigger vision that we are, is on Friday, we were notified that we got 1 out of the 8 state of Iowa grants for $43,000 to work with at-risk youth during an internship program this summer. So we'll take 20 of these youth that are currently not in school between the ages of 14 and 24, and we will do a complete classroom with de-escalation, with soft skills, financial literacy, computer literacy, and we already have local businesses here in town that then we will pay them to do on-the-job training at places like Downey Construction, Downey Tire, the restaurant industry, childcare industry, and some of the high demand jobs. So I appreciate, I know a lot of you here support the work that a lot of the nonprofits do behind the scenes. So thank you. I know your job is thankless and I know it's way more time than thought. I know several of you have met with me individually about the other areas and the hats that I wear. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Let me check my note card.
What time does that start on the 16th?
I believe 8 a.m. Yep, 8 a.m. And then actually they'll talk and then I'll talk and then we are gonna do a roundtable discussion. So
8 till what?
8 to 11:30.
How many students are how many kids did you say are young
20.
people? 20? Okay.
Yep, so we're excited.
Yeah, congratulate, you are doing some great things for the community.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for everything you do and thank you for hearing us all out. And I'm proud to be part of Indianola.
We are proud to have you too, Sue.
Thank you.
And on the.
Really? You don't get
Thank you for mine.
What, I used mine last year and it worked, so, yeah.
You're into game,
Right.
so.
I don't like writing.
Sparks, you may be arresting a here tonight. We will move on. Al Ferris at 811 East Salem.
Yeah. Good evening.
I like your topic I see on here, parks.
Al Ferris, some of you have heard this before from me, but I'm not going to give up and I'm going to keep coming back. I'm going to talk about parks and the need for parks. The recently established comprehensive plan identified certain regions, not specific properties, but certain regions of the city where we need parks. Look at the east side and the new development over there and imagine trying to 6-year-old to a park. Look at the far north side. Look at the other growth areas of the city because we've got parks in quote old Indianola, but we don't have parks in new Indianola. There is a property available right south of Williams Terrace. Haven't been by there. There's for sale signs on it. Part of it is adjacent to the trail. Someday, you have to start addressing this. It's not going to be cheap. It's not going to be easy. There are other ways to do it, but in this case right now, there's property for sale that would meet that need in an area where there are no parks in a relatively high density residential area. Every time I drive through there, way to the Y, there are kids either in the street or in the rainwater catchment areas trying to play at least when the land is dry. I urge you to give it serious consideration. Begin to talk to the owner about acquisition of all or part of it. It would fill a great need in that area. Second thing I hadn't planned to talk about, but since I'm on planning and zoning and have been for several years with Josh, I'm sorry you just created a second vacancy for us. And what I'm angling towards, I urge you to get on with evaluating people who maybe have applied to be on planning and zoning. Because we're now not 9 people, now we're 7 people. And I think you get better decisions with 9 people. More thoughts, and I urge you to address that as expeditiously as you can. Thank you.
Wow.
Thank you.
We will move on to the consent agenda. Are there any items that need to be pulled?
Second.
Thank you. Ben, would you like to go over any highlights of the consent agenda?
Sure. Well, I think this gave a great lead into the fact that there is a change on our consent agenda to create an ad hoc committee of city council members, and that's the policies by which we can start planning commission seats and vacancies. So that's on the agenda, but also we have the Hometown Pride Celebrate Warren County Parade. That'll be on Saturday, July 29th, 10 a.m. We have the Indianola Summer Arts Festival, which will be on July 29th and 30th at 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. And we have the Indianola Chamber of Commerce event scheduled for June 9th and August 26th. 3 of those have some variances to our liquor licenses or sale of liquor at those various events. We also have the purchase of a new, or the authorization to place an order for the purchase of a new street sweeper. We also have the amendments to the Indianola finance policies. This is to allow for the use of of health insurance dollars from our 820 fund, purchase of wellness benefits for our staff and IMU staff. Resolution approving amendments to the Board of Commission policies, as I just mentioned, the creation of the ad hoc committee. Shout out to Aaron Hurt, who will be representing the city as medical liaison between Warren County and the city of Indianola. We're going to be participating in the Metropolitan Advisory Council. This allows us to gain entry into the STAR program and some of the benefits that we can have for our public safety and police officials to participate in that. Second consideration for city of Indianola to prohibit scavenging practices. This is basically allowing for our police officers to be able to complete their investigations. I know there was some question on this, and we do plan to bring the changes that we are having on the agenda is simply for the police department, but we are planning to bring that back to talk about the overall changes when it comes to our city cleanup periods of time. Second consideration also with the ordinances related to our traffic code. This one we wanted to bring to the council's attention that we do need to reorder some of the code numbers between our second reading and our third reading so that we ensure that they are tied to the police department traffic enforcement code numbers, so that when they go forward with prosecution, they tie perfectly and we don't have any issues. So there's really no change to the code. It'll just be the numbering, and Chief, having that, we'll have that ready for you for your third consideration. And lastly, the changes to the sewer charges for the city of Indianola, which will take effect in June.
Any other discussion? Jackie?
Councilmember Beach,
Aye.
Richardson,
Aye.
Parker,
Aye.
Dolby,
Aye.
Schroeder.
Aye.
Moving on, and need a first file the March 2023 EMS billing activity report.
Second.
Thank you. Chief,
Aye.
questions for Chief? And busy as usual.
Yes, if you've noticed, above 220 again.
Saw that.
Yes, Ron, he just calls you out on it now. Go on.
I've been labeled.
I think it's a good label.
Happy to answer any. Just congratulations, Aaron. Yes, and you know, good person to have oversee those policies. It's something that's, I know we're getting off the subject here, but the county is going forward, and they're going forward with something that should have been done a long time ago. The training has already started, and think they want to go live June 20th with the MD.
So this is like the questions that the dispatch is going to ask the person who calls in, right?
Correct.
Aaron's going to train them on what the proper
He
questions
will
are.
look over the policies that they will follow. And that's what he's signing off. They're still working with 2 physicians right now to see if one of them. That's why he's only dragged it with 4 months. Things happened real quick. So that was one of the reasons why it really hadn't gone out to solicit to a physician. Aaron's filling that spot temporarily. Says a lot about your staff and your own too. It does. He's a good one.
Great, great. Any other questions for Chief? All those in favor say aye.
I
Those. To apologize to Melissa right now. I know that I'm going to say her last name wrong. So I need a first and second motion on a consideration of the appointment of Melissa Grandishnik. Thank you. To the Hometown Pride Committee for a term beginning immediately and ending July 1st, 2024. Thank you. Thank you. Discussion. Great. Okay, Jackie?
Member Beach. Aye. Richardson.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Dalby.
Aye.
Schroeder.
Real quick before you move on,
Absolutely.
it didn't correspond time to put it on for this council agenda, but did want to point out, we did have our CBB meeting, quarterly meeting on Thursday last week. And I just wanted to point out something that a little heads up that things have moved a little bit. I mentioned in their reports Simpson twice. And I think part of it is they know what the facilities they have there are. I think the key is us being better suited to request what we want for them, being better customer or better customer to them. They had, I think having the new athletic director at Simpson has changed the philosophy that, you know, they mentioned that here, that they're more apt to look at NCAA. So one of the conversations they were having is what future things are they looking at? Well, evidently the NCAA is you put in bids for hosting events 4 to 5 years in advance. So they're actually now going to talk about 2027 through whatever it is, 32, whatever. Anyway, so and they're going to look at what can Simpson hold for Division III, that type of thing. So I think as we continue to work with them, you know, we need to make sure they understand what facilities we have, and they can't sell anything they don't know that we have. So I think having Amanda doing what she's doing with maybe getting a better handle on what we do for tourism in Enola, which is a different tact for the chamber. It isn't something that they've dealt with in the past real well. And so I think that will help maybe open up some doors and conversations. So just wanted to let you know that I just sat back and I was like, one, there's two. So I wanted to report back that it's working. So. Yeah.
Into there's report. Before we do item A, I'll just kind of give a brief update. Congratulations to all the athletes in the middle school and the high school that qualified and ran a Drake relays last week. We have ridiculous days coming up. The date, I believe it. 24th. I don't know why I didn't write that day. But that's coming up. I can't get my calendar to pull up. And then the other significant thing is there was an MPO meeting last week, and there will be a change in the executive director. So Todd Ashby is no longer with MPO, and we will be discussing that this Thursday, and we'll be taking over there. Yeah, that was a little bit of a surprise. So moving into item A, I need a first and second motion on a consideration of the appointment of Clint Hagedorn to serve on the Veterans Memorial Building Commission for a term beginning immediately and ending July 1st, 2025.
So moved.
Thank you. Discussion? Not Jackie?
Councilmember Dalby.
Aye.
Schroeder. Aye. Beach. Aye. Richardson.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Aboard. Clint. We'll move into public consideration and new business. I need a first and second motion on the first consideration of an ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances of the City of Indianola, Iowa by amending chapter 136 regarding sidewalk use regulations. Charlie. I need a first and second motion. I apologize.
So moved as read.
Thank you.
Okay.
Now, hi, Charlie.
And I will jump in, but good evening. I think most of council is aware that traditionally we've always gotten these sidewalk use agreements with the business owners on the square who are using the area just right outside their businesses on the sidewalk. Traditionally, since I've been here, at least, this has always just been a handful of businesses. This year, we formalized a process, put an application out, and actually had the Downtown Square Commission review those applications. This year, we saw quite a jump in the number who were applying. And rather than constantly go through these annual sidewalk use agreements, we asked legal counsel to take a look at it and see if there was any code amendments we could make that would be better used in lieu of doing the sidewalk use agreement annually. And then in communication with Amy, she suggested this language be added to the ordinance under the sidewalk use or the sidewalk regulation portion, which will then allow us to just allow these uses. We'll still review them through the Downtown Square Commission through the application process to make sure they meet all of our standards, but we won't have to get into those individual agreements. This language. So, any questions? Be happy to answer them.
No questions. Jackie.
Councilmember Dalby,
Aye.
Schroeder,
Aye.
Beach,
Aye.
Richardson,
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Forward, into old business. And my oath here as well too. I need a motion on a resolution appointing Josh Rabe as council member to fill a vacant unexpired term.
Moved as read.
Perfect. Jackie.
Councilmember Dalby,
Aye.
Schroeder,
Aye.
Beach,
Aye.
Richardson,
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Great. Josh, we will have you come forward and then read this and you sign it when you have your wife come forward and we'll take some pictures. Where you watch everybody dive.
Ours.
From their seat. Okay, cool. We'll go over here in the middle and
Okay, so
we always make it really awkward.
you're allowed to actually read it, or we just sign at this point, you committed.
Oh, you've committed. So-
Picture.
And it always goes. Trying to work.
Already.
Hi, Josh Rabe.
Josh Rabe.
We're gonna start over.
Yeah.
We're just excited to have another person at the table. I, Josh Rabe,
I, Josh Rabe,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution of
of the United States
the United States,
and the Constitution of the State of Iowa,
Constitution of the State of Iowa,
and that I will faithfully
that I will faithfully
and impartially,
and impartially,
to the best of my ability,
best of my ability,
discharge all the duties
discharge all of the duties
of a council member
council member,
of the City of Indianola, Iowa,
City of Indianola, Iowa,
as now or hereafter required by law.
now or hereafter required by law.
That one always gets
Yeah,
everyone.
good luck.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
You're.
You gotta send it to Dad now.
It's smoother. Yeah, it is. Go bad for those first few people. Try.
All right, thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Until you sign. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We'll just have you give it.
Sure you want to sign?
And if you want to come next time, we can do a photo op with your whole
It's
family.
awkward to not sign now.
Yeah, right.
Thank you.
Over there then?
Yeah.
Right.
Over there, right?
Yeah.
It is. Well, come on, Josh. Josh, you can come on up to the table. Yeah, we'll have you experience these you've already experienced these very uncomfortable.
Got my P and Z name tag. Just to-
I will tell you, get here before Gwen, because she will find her chair that she had
saw
tonight.
that earlier.
They get changed.
I
around.
have a chair I like.
All right. Moving on into other business, we have the city manager's report with Ben Reeves. Oh, look at that. It's impressive.
Okay. On the agenda is one item, discussion and direction regarding architects for the building project. The council discussed this last time, and I just wanted to give an update than direction at this point. I know one of the directions of the council is to explore the construction manager at risk. And that's actually a fairly new concept to the state of Iowa. And so it's a little bit tricky trying to track down and get experience from both contractors and architects that have experience within the state of Iowa. Many have experience under what's called CMGC, Construction Manager General Contractor, outside the state of Iowa. And so anyway, I'm just letting you know that I'm doing a little bit of investigating, talking to, I still need to get with OPN, but also with other architects, with contractors that have experience with this, as well as master builders, and just making sure that one of the thoughts and the discussion items were making sure that that all of the pool that we're really looking for has experience in this area, but also reaching out to other cities. And we haven't had a lot of response from other cities of those who have experience with this new process in the state of Iowa. So we just want to make sure that you're fully comfortable and moving forward in the direction that we're heading. Any comments or on that? Also too, I just wanted a couple of things. One, since the council met last meeting and talked about the new city hall and the vision for our community, we've had a number of meetings throughout the community sharing this idea of this vision of creating green space and net positive parking to the square and just the benefits that it could have for our community. It's been extremely well received by members of the community at every level. If there's any concern at all, is really the desire to try to improve our parking situation on the square more rapidly. And I know there's a desire to try to consolidate projects, but that can often make it so that our projects are a little bit too large, and it makes it harder to digest as financially as far as the community is concerned. And so when spinning onto parking, I just wanted to make the community aware that we are looking at short-term, long-term, and midterm projects that we can take on to try to enhance the parking etiquette in our community. And the mayor's led out on that with formation of a group of local business owners, the chamber, and city staff members. And what we're talking about doing is one, having a discussion with the county about trying to incentivize their employees to park off the square. Two, to create signage the city can provide to better illustrate where our off-street parking will be. Three, to create parking etiquette communications plan. The chief has volunteered to wear some short shorts and run his 0.25K marathon from the parking structure up the steps of the Justice Center to show how far it really is and if we can make it there. In the chamber, starting a parking pledge campaign within the businesses and having stickers on the windows, trying to illustrate parking etiquette and how important it is. People don't recognize that a parking space typically will turn over 30 times in a day, and that really helps our businesses. But when one person parks there all day, it can really have a negative impact. So it's really just talking about common courtesy and how to work together. Midterm, we'll look at such things as enforcement options that we can have, and the ones that can actually be enforced by the police department, and then long-term a parking structure. So that's one thing. I also wanted to report on the great work that IMU is doing with the solar field project. That's going to be coming to our Board of Adjustments. It's creating a lot of excitement in our community, and being able to have the ability for nearly a third of our community having the ability to have power coming from a local source that's more cost effective than buying power in the open market. It makes us more independent and more sustainable, and great work with IMU for that. And then last, I just want to apologize to the community on behalf of some impacts that we've had recently on the Henderson Street project. I sent an email out to the council just a few minutes ago. In all reality, what we're really trying to accomplish is raising the standard of quality for the infrastructure that we put into our community. And the best way we can do that is to communicate effectively with our contractors to ensure that as we raise standards, we're working with you, but it's for a purpose. And that purpose is, if we have good, solid infrastructure, good, solid sub-base, and we put in concrete properly, doing a job right the first time means we do it more cost effectively and less expensively, community-wide. We're not trying to repair those, and it saves the damage to our and wear and tear on our cars by just doing it right the first time. We put the right material in, we have it geotech inspected, and that we pour the proper concrete so we can open up the street more rapidly. Change is always hard, it's more difficult, and we need to work through some bumps. Our end to make sure that we're doing that in a coordinated way between our different departments. And we know that the Henderson issue has been impactful in our neighborhood. And so we want to apologize for that, but at the same time, this is going towards making more improvements over the long term. So just want to thank the community in general for your patience as we move forward. And I think that's it, unless the council has any questions.
Well, I would say that I don't know how many as a council members had communications with the folks on the Henderson Street area. I do think we need to improve our communication with the folks that are impacted by this greatly. So whatever we can do, and there's a lot of questions. They went to different people for questions, not necessarily on staff and other places, and got all kinds of signals and information. So the best we can do is kind of, communicate. We're having an issue, let those folks know that it's gonna be another week or 2 weeks or whatever, and kind of.
I know that many of you, if not all of you, are reached out individually reached out to me, and it was great talking to you all weekend.
I bet you missed talking to me.
It was a very nice coordinated effort of the residents of that area. They had a very nice
I think
effort. And
Just maybe so I have been understanding, it was a private situation that had gone and it affected the city because they had to cut into the street.
It did, and we have a application process in our system where if an application comes through, it gets reviewed both by community development and normally would be also reviewed by the streets department.
Right.
In this particular case, it was reviewed by the streets department, and more information was needed before the authorization was given to proceed. But there was a glitch in the system, and that coordination didn't take place. So the streets really didn't get involved until about 6 weeks that passed. And when they did get involved over the last 2 weeks, really trying to make sure that the sub-base material was of a proper quality to ensure that we didn't have failure in the future. So we've worked through the technology issues. Our departments are working really well together. We have a good plan to draw a line in the sand between community development, evaluating private property, streets, and engineering, reviewing and inspecting things in public property, and working as a team. And ultimately, that's going to be to our betterment for future projects, but we know it's been impactful in the short term.
So in other words, so what happened was it was reviewed by one. And that should have been an automatic thing that sent it, okay. So you can get away from, I know everybody says technology, but more times than not, there's glitches. And so I'm called to say, because I can't imagine we have very many of those that happen on a weekly, monthly, annual basis, right? Where somebody's got a private situation that cuts into a street. So phone call from one organization to the other would be helpful. So
Sorry, go ahead.
I'm just saying, get ahead of it.
it seemed like that was.
I had today, if I'm hoping I read Ben's information correctly. Silver lining I tried to present to the folks, if there was one, is that, yeah, you kind of got taken in the wrong direction here, but the bottom line is we found out that we had some issues and glitches in our system that we needed to correct. And by doing so, that it's going to make it a lot more efficient. Is that exactly what we're talking about?
That's exactly right. Every single one of our staff members have done an exceptional job. It's just that we just didn't
Understand, yep.
as proper as much as we should have. Now we're on top of it.
Right. And then the communication with the people in their different areas needs to be, we need to have a solid line of communication. So let them know the process is mixed up or something happened.
But I do want to thank our community development department and
absolutely.
our streets and engineering. Because it is a situation where we could have seen things fall apart, white figures and all that type of thing. And really they came together and found solutions. And I think we have exceptional staff representing our community.
I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say, I mentioned being out in the community, talking about the plan things, and there's been a lot of chatter and all the feedback I've received has been positive. The only question that I wanted to ask you is the one thing that people ask, and I know is in the budget, but there hasn't really maybe been communication about, is just finishing up what what we're doing. You know, we're doing the alleys. What about the signage? That is, for lack of a better term, arches, lighting in the alleys, things like that. The people that are kind of directly affected by that would like to know a little bit more about what the commitment to finishing that is.
It's actually a great question because it does lead into something I haven't put in my reports, and it's probably a really good topic of discussion. And that is, we have a new vision for the east side, for a public safety building, for the vision of creating that additional parking and green space that goes into the square. Some of the infrastructure that we have planned is on that east side, and we intentionally held off and started on the south side. Now have gone to the north side. We working towards the west. We stopped not and haven't allowed the east side to go forward because we wanted to make sure that what we're doing there is an infrastructure that needs to be torn out in a very near future. We held a meeting with new leadership, and we all feel that we would be best served by having our infrastructure stay in the ground. We think our infrastructure on the east side is strong enough that we can maintain it for the next 5 to 7 years timeframe, and that we make any changes to the east side by rolling that into a future parking and green space project. That being said, one of the concerns that we've had on the overall square construction project is having sufficient funds to finish the frosting on the cake, if you will, all of the different monument signage and wayfinding signage and things like that. This might be an opportunity. We haven't evaluated all the numbers and we're not prepared yet to bring that back to council. But by suspending the east side, we may free up enough funds that we're able to fully complete the aesthetic elements and the architectural elements to the square that we were having a struggle trying to get into the budget.
Be great if we could have a little bit more information going forward.
So one more win to the whole.
And I think when you just said something and something we talked about last week is
Mhm.
public parking signs to let people know from out of
That was a
town. They
suggestion
do not
from-
know it's public parking, for instance, over by the Phoenix Center and Willow Moon. A lot of people don't know that's an open parking lot you can park in. And so if you're not from here, I think that, it's those simple little things that it's a really.
That was actually a business owner that suggested that.
We know the businesses are already giving out maps and kind of like art stock that straight where our public parking is, but we could do a better job at putting posters up at the Justice Center and maybe even putting an insert into the mailers when they have prosecutorial events where they're bringing, they have court actions. Can we possibly put in a mailer telling where public parking is? Just anything we can do to better communicate is what we're trying to accomplish.
I think we could probably add that into the Indianola magazine too, little map.
Yeah.
Thing and.
Good idea.
Okay, so one more thing, and I apologize, I messaged you about this too. We talked about it on Friday, but I was hoping maybe the staff could look into it and bring it back, but looking at our gravel policy as far as treatment for gravel. We've got some people who live off Plainview, and they're experiencing a lot of dust, and typically, the first is their application, and so I know we discussed that, so it might be something you just bring back, you could discuss it and.
Well, I can give you a little bit of insight and that means our public works director, Akilis Paul, be able to answer some of this a little bit more, but I'm not sure that the community recognizes that for us to do preventative dust control measures on the 6 miles of gravel road that we have in our community costs somewhere around $35,000 to $40,000 per application. Just to do K Street alone, because that's the one that we've been talking about the most, is about $4,000 to $5,000 per application. So I believe our standard process is that the residents in the area put the first application down and then the city puts the second application down. If we were to do it more often, each one of those would be another hit to our streets department.
But do you suppose that that's something where we could look at it as we put the first application down and they're responsible for everyone there on after in that year? Kind of buffer that. The main people I'm getting calls from are Plainview actually. I know new gravel was recently put down and it's very dry now.
We could certainly look at that. It just really comes down to a budgetary aspect. If there's a third.
And I'll also throw, having grown up on a gravel road, live on a gravel road. I mean, you chose to live there. It's gravel.
He wasn't gravel when they chose to live.
It's always been gravel.
No, it was chip
Yeah.
coated, John.
It was still gravel. It's never been a paved street. It's a
We
gravel.
bought our lot when it was.
So it's been a gravel. Yeah.
Because Jeff doesn't drive on gravel.
You can call it what you want, but it's a gravel. road.
So regardless, we've got gravel roads in our town that are ultimately our problem, right? So I think that was. I understand that's a cost, but we've got cities who do it, and then we have other cities. Again, I'll let you guys discuss
It
that.
is a main route for school buses to go
Plainview is very busy with.
to the high school. So I would like us maybe to talk a little bit, maybe to the school district about any way that, since you guys use that as one of your main thoroughfares to get out to the schools. Is it possible that we maybe could share or do something along that line? I think it's, we've talked about paving Plainview 25 years ago on West 17th as well. And, it's time that maybe we bite the bullet and put down some of those without charging our residents the first time through. But John's right, they did move on a gravel road. But when the school district uses that road as a main thoroughfare to the schools too, I think there's some reason or some opportunity for us to talk to them about. Sure.
We typically have to do a second coat. I mean, is that something that we're typically
Yeah,
seeing?
you have to do, you have to.
So, because I'm thinking that if we're typically having to go out and do a second application, why couldn't we help our residents out by covering the first application? And then if that's not good enough, then they could apply the second.
I think one thing you have to think about though is when you seal that road, that the roads aren't being maintained by the road grader, and then they get potholes and it causes a lot of stress on those by coating them, because then we're not caring for them. So if you're gonna coat them all summer long, those roads are gonna be absolutely horrible by the time fall rolls around.
Mhm. Yeah, because my road out of my place, it's just a short section, and by the time the end of it's ready to be recoated, it needs to be bladed because it is really rough, and we get hundreds of traffic on a day like that.
You mean the dust control coating?
Yeah.
So it doesn't last, it's not very long.
Well, it does, but what happens is when it gets wet, you get ruts into it, and then it gets hard again.
So you have the washboarding.
Get those washboards, it'll get really rough.
See, on K, we're gonna have the solar project construction.
And that's why K Street, when we were doing that, we were actually doing multiple coats where we were actually grinding down, getting it all loosened back up, put a coat on, roll it in, put another coat on, pull it in. I mean, it was a pretty involved process, and that's why it was pretty expensive, so.
Can I back up one topic?
Absolutely.
Okay. Parking lot availability. When do we know the south parking lot will be available? Do we know?
The concern that we have there is the construction itself has gone extremely well, but Mid-American is needing to replace their line out there. And Mid-American is a good 6 to 8 weeks out.
Seriously.
We'd be
Okay,
lucky.
so have we got them on the schedule then for the north lot then and the north parking?
Their plans are, we're encouraging them to do the entire 3 sides all in one project because they're so far out.
So does that mean we're essentially, we can't open?
On the south side, we're having difficulty because we just can't move forward until American is completed.
That's a big hit coming into our summer. Really got to get that opened up.
There's nothing we can do to encourage them to move out.
You know, that was a question. It was brought up, and we talked about this in directors meeting this morning, and
I love all the giggles.
yeah, and we talked about it as directors, and I said, is this where I need to engage the mayor and meeting with those at Mid-American to try to create more pressure or anything like that?
We had the same issue when we did the highway out on North Edge of town. CenturyLink held us up for quite a while there. They don't care. They know the legislature backs them, which they have. They've given them plenty of space to do those things. And so the municipalities really don't have a lot of leverage. And
The
so
only thing we have is the telephone poles on South Highway 65, 69 are ours. And we let them use that. And if I'm not mistaken, is that still true? You know? Yeah.
Off the top of my head.
But at one time, we did have some leverage on CenturyLink because we were telling them, well, let's take down our poles. You gotta figure out what you're gonna do then, you know?
I like that method.
That, but I don't know if American uses those or not. I think it's only Central.
you can try it, but
I think we have to try it.
And we've got a business, obviously, that has a private parking lot back there that has impeded her business. So she's not very happy about that because you also can't park on the side either because of where the signage is. And I think that.
Can we get
yeah,
half of that lot, the south, very south half, could we get that open maybe somehow?
I
Barricaded.
don't think you'd be able to walk through the construction though. That'd be the problem.
We're doing our best, but this was just the topic of this discussion, just the first thing this morning.
And with CenturyLink back there too, or is it just Mid-America?
Gonna defer to Charlie.
You want me to jump up there?
Smiling is
I'm just antsy to get up here and clarify that. No, CenturyLink was an issue. CenturyLink was an issue at first, but we got that one taken care of. And it is Mid-American and they've had plans since 2020. And we've been working with them to get that relocated. They are 6 to 8 weeks out, but as we've talked through the contractor, that really only puts us 4 weeks later possibly than we thought. They have looked and well, they're going to be looking at options on things that we can do. So the plan from the start, just the way stormwater flows and how that parking lot was set up was do the alley first, do the parking lot second. They're looking to see if they can do that in the reverse now, which would hopefully open some of that stuff a little bit quicker, but ultimately our goal on this side was July 1 to get everything finished up. Probably looking at another 4 weeks possibly on that deadline.
August?
Through some of our best traffic times in Indianola too.
I mean, that's really unfortunate. It really is. And
I agree.
I hope that this is being communicated with those business owners, because I know one that's probably gonna call me tonight after she
We
hears
haven't.
this is
yet
going to be,
because-
this is gonna be a surprise to them.
Yeah,
This morning
we just
and-
found this out on Friday as we talked with them. I let everybody know this morning and tomorrow's meeting with Absolute to kind of get some more direction on exactly what we're gonna do before we communicated stuff out.
Can we set up the weekly calls again? I feel like that might help, or even if it's every 2 weeks, that we
Yeah.
do the Zoom calls, because
It's a possibility, definitely. we can
because
do
there's
that.
gonna be some people on that street that are gonna start calling us tonight that are gonna hear this conversation, and it is concerning. That's. So, and I know your hands are
We
just as
are too.
tied, and we appreciate you.
I just, and I want to reemphasize that our hands are completely tied by the kind of ability in there that we've got to move. I mean, we have options, but that then shuts everybody off with gas service and we can't do that either. So we're taking the steps necessary to get it done as quick as we can. And we're hopeful that them coming in and taking care of the 3 sides at once is really good. Hopefully, I mean, overall, I think the project's still on schedule to be done. Ellie right now, and previously anticipated timeline to get that done.
So are they on the books and scheduled
Yeah.
for 6 weeks?
Well, yeah, as of Friday, they were gonna get everything rolling on that, so.
Right, so we're on north side right now. I was concerned if we were on west side too. I was like.
No, and that's been another thing too. We have made this pretty clear to the contractor that the west side cannot be done until, or the west side cannot start until the south side's done, because we can't have two parking lots on lanes. But you know, depending on what we find out as we go forward, that'll be something that we can get out if there's any changes to that.
What date is the north side expected to be done?
When did we start on that? That was, back to you, remember, was that a couple weeks ago we started on that? We've been saying on all of them 3 to 4 months, one done from start date, so that one started mid-April here, mid-July to mid-August.
Okay, thanks, Charlie. Sorry, we got a little off there.
A lot of good information. Sorry to end the meeting on a.
I think again, that the important thing, everybody's doing everything they can, but it's like we talked about earlier, it's having empathy for the people who are impacted, even when there's nothing we can do about it.
And communication.
Yeah.
Right. Anything else?
I will adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We didn't hear you.
Oh, it's there.
We are adjourned. I was like, your first vote, come on.
I was gonna